My husband, 39 male, knows about my 36 female, 6-month long affair but hasn't told me. What can I do?
Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started.
My husband, 39 male, knows about my 36 female, 6-month long affair but hasn't told me. What can I do? Okay, so maybe let's start out with a little background. My husband and I first met when I was right out of college in a new city. He swept me off my feet, and from our first date, it was magic. We married 3 years after that, and now we have an 8-year-old daughter. We both work pretty great jobs, and between caring for our daughter and work responsibility, we are both busy people. But he always made time for me and treated me like royalty, even when I didn't do the same. Around the beginning of 2019, I became familiar with one of my co-workers, Nick. He's about my age and has a wife and 3 kids of his town. Nick and I started so innocent. We would go out of work outings together and sit close by and talk. I started sitting in his lap and we had some light touching but nothing severe. I guess he reminded me of when my husband and I were young. There was a passion in Nick's eyes that drew me close to him. Eventually, we started sleeping together. I knew during the whole time it was wrong, but I pushed through, never once thinking about the impact it could have on my husband. This morning started off as usual. My husband gets into the shower before me every day, and I snooze before I have to hop into. He mentioned last night that he was going to stop by Costco on the way home from work today. So I grabbed my husband's phone so I could add to the shopping list a few things that I wanted. I know my husband's iPhone lock code, so I went into the Notes app to add what I wanted. And when I opened the app, it opened to a folder with dates listed in it. The date started in first week of March and continued unabated until last week. I curiously opened one of the dates, and to my shock, it was a diary. I never knew my husband as the type of person to write out his thoughts and emotions. I read through the first couple entries of his diary, and it broke my heart. The diary was all about my infidelity and how my husband was processing it. Looking at the dates that were listed, he discovered my affair about a month after it became physical. I quickly locked his phone and hid it. When he came out of the shower, I helped him look for the phone. I hid. My husband has a work phone and a personal phone, so he wasn't faced about not being able to find it. He was on time crunch and left the house with only his work phone. I called off work and read each entry. I feel like I may vomit. Almost each entry for the first 3 months he discovered my affair were about how he planned on making her fall in love with me again. He had us on a week-long vacation so I couldn't see him. How he bought my favorite flowers and cooked my favorite dish, but I continued to see Nick. As the time went on, I continued to tell lies to my husband. He would write in the diary about how his resolve is beginning to waver, how he is becoming depressed and feels so lonely and unloved. After 3 months, the diary entries became wholly about his depression and how he cries every time he knows I am with Nick. He writes how every night before falling asleep, he has visuals of Nick's body on top of mine, and how the visuals make him feel physical ill. He keeps writing his diary how he doesn't want our daughter to grow up with divorced parents like he did. There is a diary entry from 1 month ago that stopped me in my tracks, though. In the entry, my husband talks about how one night when I was with Nick and he put our daughter to bed, he was crying to himself like usual, but the tears stopped flowing. He says that his body finally stopped producing tears for his failed marriage. He says this night was the night the Band-Aid fully came off. In this entry, he talks about how the 6-month long process felt like a Band-Aid on his soul that was slowly being pulled off. And how now the band-aid was finally off? He felt a wave of relief. Like he finally got over me. 2 weeks ago, he had another diary entry. And this one, he talks about how he wants to arrange to meet an escort girl. He writes that he doesn't know how to start an affair, but having sex with someone other than his wife will be an interesting experience. My husband knows my cheating scheduled. He has a planned and meeting this escort sometime that I am with Nick. I don't know what to do at this point. I am at such a loss. I am so ashamed in myself. The whole I kept telling myself that no one was getting hurt, that this affair would run its course and life would go back to normal. I never realized the pain and the suffering that I put my husband through. I have cheated on him so many times and has suffered through it. What can I do now? I am never going to cheat on my husband again, but it's probably too late to have this realization for me. Where do I go? What can I do? I know many of you will say some horrible things about me, and that's okay. But please, help me save the marriage I ruined.